So I am the curriculum associate for school counseling. I supervise all the counselors in the district and the social workers. So I work closely with the middle school counselors and the high school counselors. And tonight is really an opportunity for you guys to hear a little bit about what the high school has to offer and what you should be preparing for in the weeks ahead as we start to just begin the conversation about course selection at the high school. So Ms. Schmidt was going to join me tonight, but she was not able to attend tonight. So I told her I would cover for her. Clearly, you've come to know Ms. Schmidt very well, I'm sure, over the past 3 years, and she's going to be working closely with you and with your child directly in the months ahead in choosing courses for the 9th grade. So I'm going to share my screen in a minute. And I'm going to go over some things like graduation requirements and diploma types and things to kind of keep in mind for the future. Then we'll go a little bit further and start talking about the courses, that 9th graders typically take, electives, and hopefully I'll have an opportunity to be able to answer some of your questions if you have any. So I am going to share my screen now. And if ahead of time, if you guys can mute yourselves, I'd appreciate it. And at the end, I'll take questions via the chat. I think we have over 100 participants right now, so it's going to be tough to manage any other way. So 1 minute. Okay, I apologize for that. It took me a minute. Can somebody just write in the chat if you can see my screen? Okay, great. All right, thanks again for your patience. All right, so. Let me just go to the next slide here. All right, so we're going to start with the diploma types. The majority of students at Jericho earn Regents diplomas with advanced designation. But there are three types, and they're just good to know about. So all three diploma types require 22 credits. Most courses at the high school are worth 1 credit or half a credit. And most of our students earn well over 25 or 27 or 28 credits by the time they graduate. So having enough credits to graduate is rarely an issue for our students just by taking the required courses and any electives that they choose. The difference between the three diplomas are the number of Regents exams that are required. So for the Regents diploma, there are 4 to 5 Regents exams that are required. For the there's a few additional. Oh, I'm sorry. Does somebody out there, somebody got their microphone not muted? If you guys can just mute your microphones, I get it. All right. So again, the difference between these diplomas are the number of Regents exams required. Now, in this strange time that we're in COVID, for some of our current 8th graders may have gotten Regents exam credit last year for Regents exams that that were canceled, and that's fine. Those will still count, and that's the same is true for this year. If there are any Regents exams that are canceled but due to COVID, then students will be exempt from those Regents exams, and those exemptions will count towards these required assessments. The 4 or 5 for the Regents diploma, which is 1 in math, 1 in science, 1 in English, and 2 in social studies for a total of 5. The advanced Regents with the advanced designation Regents diploma has 1 additional Regents required in math, or 2 additional Regents required in math and 1 additional Regents in science, and a comprehensive level 3 assessment in a world language. So after, let's say, Chinese 3 or Spanish 3 or Italian 3, students in the 10th grade, typically when they take level 3, will take that checkpoint B, and that assessment counts as well for that advanced diploma. All right, next slide here. So this is the breakdown of how those credits work out for the requirements of those 22 credits. So you can see that there are 4 units of English that are required. So that's English 9, 10, 11, 12. Social studies, it's global 1 and 2, US history, and then government and economics senior year. Science is typically, in the order that we do it in Jericho, is typically earth science, then living environment, and chemistry, physics, or any of the AP sciences. In math, those are algebra 1, geometry, and algebra 2 for those 3 credits. And again, these are minimum requirements, so it's important to remember that as well. Though only 3 credits are required in science, it's our recommendation for the majority of students that students take beyond 3 credits of science. So any of our students that are currently in the 8th grade that are taking earth science right now, they'll be done with their 3rd credit of science by the end of 10th grade. It is certainly not our recommendation that a student does not take science for junior or senior year. So again, these are minimums, and this is why our students tend to earn many more credits than 22 by the time they graduate, because they take, they can usually continue with science and math throughout all 4 years of high school. Then we have 3 credits in a language other than English, 1 credit in art or music, PE every year, half a credit of health, and then there's room for plenty of electives. 3.5 is the minimum required, but again, our students usually have many more than that. That equals to 22. So there are multiple pathways to graduate. And this may be one of the few times that we really talk about this, because most of our students will graduate with the humanities pathway, what that means is that for those 5 Regents exams that are required for the Regents diploma, 4 of them have to be the ones that are listed here: 1 in math, 1 in English, 1 in science, and 1 in social studies. So that's typically algebra 1. English is taken in the end of junior year. Science is usually the first credit that's earned, which is typically earth science. in the first Regents in social studies is global history. And then the second Regents in social studies is in US history, which is the end of junior year. And that would fall under the humanities pathway. So for most students, those are the 5 Regents exams that they're going to use to earn that Regents diploma. Is that the 2 social studies Regents is what that STEM Regents is, the humanities Regents rather. So since all of our students take the Regents exam at the end of the course that has a Regents exam, those are typically the 5. If for some reason we have a student that is unable to pass the global history or the US history Regents exam, one or the other, they could use their second math Regents or second science Regents to earn that pathway using the STEM pathway. So let's just say 98%, 99% of our students will graduate using the humanities pathway. And it's really not something you need to think about because it's going to be the path that your children are on already. And if for some reason, come the end of junior year, it seems like one of those social studies Regents exams didn't work out and we need to utilize an alternate pathway, your child's counselor will help you navigate that. The diplomas also come with some endorsements. So a student can earn that Regents with Advanced designation with honors or without honors, a Regents with honors or without honors. So what that basically means is if you minimally pass those 5 Regents exams or 8 Regents exams, depending on the diploma type, if you minimally pass them, you earn that diploma type. In order to earn with honors, student needs to have earned an average of a 90 or above on those 5 or 8 Regents exams that are required for that diploma type. So it's an average of them. So a student get an 85 on one of them, a 95 on another. And as long as the average of them comes to a 90 or above, then that diploma upon graduation would list a Regents with honors or an advanced designation Regents with honors. There's also a mastery designation for the diplomas. So this basically can be earned in math or science or both. So once you start looking at the combination of diplomas here, you can see that there's many different ones. A student can earn an advanced Regents with advanced designation Regents diploma with honors and mastery in math or mastery in science or both. And mastery needs to a student needs to have earned an 85 or above on each of the Regents exams of the 3 required Regents exams in math or the 2 required Regents exams in science, or 3 rather. So, but that's not an average of all 3 of them together. It's an 85 or above as a minimum. So once a student gets below an 85 on a single one of them, even if they got hundreds on the others, then they would not have mastery in math or science. Again, for any Regents exams that a student is potentially exempt from due to the state potentially canceling an exam, then that Regents exam would not be counted for this mastery, and only the 2 other Regents exams would be, or 1 other would be. So a student will not be ineligible for mastery or honors just because of an exemption. The state recognizes that's out of our control. So this is the math course flow chart at the high school. So you can see the order in which most students will take math courses here. So many of our students are accelerated in math or science or both. And this sort of kind of lays out the path that a student would take. So on the one side here, you can see that if a student is taking Algebra 1 in 8th grade, the following year they would take geometry in the 9th grade. They would take Algebra 2 in 10th grade, but they'd have the ability to enroll in Pre-Calc BC together as an option. If we go on to the other side, for students that are not accelerated in middle school, you can see that they would be in Math 8 currently, would go into Algebra 1 as a 9th grader, then take geometry, and then you can see the choices after that. So basically here for our students, they're either going to be taking Algebra 1 or geometry as a ninth grader, depending on what course they're taking in middle school. If we have a student that's double accelerated, they may take Algebra 2 as a ninth grader. And then you can see the electives for math are in the middle that, that students can take, some of which they can take potentially in the ninth grade. In the end, you can see that students, by the time they are a senior, will all have the opportunity to be in calculus of some sort by their senior year. So for accelerated or double accelerated students, they could be in AP calculus or potentially in multivariable calculus as a senior. And for students that are not accelerated or double accelerated, they still have the opportunity to take college calculus as a senior. So, and or potentially even AP calculus AB. Next chart here is our high school science course flow chart. So same again, on one side, for students who are accelerated that are taking earth science currently as an 8th grader, they will take living environment as a 9th grader, chemistry as a 10th grader, and you can see the science options there for junior or senior year. And on the right, for students that are not accelerated, that are currently taking science 8, they would enroll in earth science as a 9th grader, then living environment in 10th grade, chemistry in junior year, and then there are several options that they could take as a senior as well. Again, the electives for science are in the middle. Tonight's presentation, aside from recording, I will be sharing these slides. So you'll have an opportunity to take a look at them a little bit more closely and on your own, at your own pace. Yeah, so this scheduling process does play a significant role in the transition from 8th to 9th grade. Most of the courses taken in the middle school, there isn't too much choice. There is to a certain extent, but you know, our middle school has teams, and so because of that, you know, really the only choice is between, you know, math and science and acceleration, some of the electives, but otherwise pretty much everybody's taking the same thing. What a 9th grade schedule looks like for our students varies from student to student, but it's important to know two things. First, there are no honors courses at the high school, and no 9th grader can take an AP course. So that means that all students coming into the 9th grade will take English 1, and all students coming into 9th grade will take Global History 1. There is no distinction between, you know, one level of rigor versus another. And that is actually, I think, a very good thing. It simplifies it a little bit, and it also lets 9th grade be a good time to really transition to the high school, get used to the new expectations, the workload, an opportunity to really settle in before making those decisions as a 10th grader for potentially more advanced classes. We have our course offerings are on the high school website. You also, I'm sure, got the emails about this Thursday's course information night. So our conversation tonight is really in prep for this Thursday night's, you know, opportunity to learn about the different. So I already sent you guys. I already sent you the abridged version of the course catalog for 8th into 9th grade. You will be able to see on Thursday night the full catalog. So that would be, I would say you would want to look at that if you want to kind of look ahead to what courses might the student be interested in taking in the 10th, 11th, or 12th grade. The abridged version makes it a little simpler. Instead of being 50 pages, you know, it's 20 pages. So it's a little bit easier to digest. It only in the abridged version only talks about the electives that are available for 9th graders. So I think that makes things a little simpler to navigate. But on this Thursday night, we will have a virtual course information night. Unfortunately, and you know, in one way it's positive because it's easier for people to jump on to a website and kind of browse at their own speed. In the past, we had a course information night in Sam Springer Gym, which was more of like a setup like a fair. And, you know, that certainly had its real benefits also. But due to social distancing requirements, we are operating this year like we did last year in a virtual format. There's a website that we've created that you will get a link to on Thursday that has the links to all the course catalogs, but it also has videos for many of the courses, for most of the courses that we have. Our teachers created videos where beyond the course description that's just listed in the course catalog, puts kind of a name to a face, and they're able to talk about the course in a little bit more personal way, as opposed to just that written description that we have in there. So there are many, many, many videos to be seen. So Thursday night is really that opportunity to explore, to think about different courses, and it'll be a good way to maybe come up with questions that you can ask Ms. Schmidt the following day or in the days that follow that. We will be starting the scheduling process, so Ms. Schmidt will be starting her meetings with students within the next, certainly not this week. We're going to get through this whole week. We have our course information night, but probably sometime next week, she'll beginning her meeting with students that she does individually. And so each student will have their own individual conversation with Ms. Schmidt that'll be tailored to what their interests are, and it'll be an opportunity for them to ask questions, knowing that the courses that they choose in that meeting with Ms. Schmidt can change over the course of the next month and a half. We really want to try to, have the scheduling process done by the first week of March. All right, so this is the course selection worksheet. So this kind of list, you can see if we look up on the left under required courses, English language arts. So English 1, that is the English class that all ninth graders will take. Again, makes it very simple. There is no honors or AP. There's one English 1 course, and all of our ninth graders will take it. In math, our students will, depending on what math course they're currently taking in the 8th grade, will go into either Algebra 1. If they were currently in Math 8, they will go into Geometry if they're currently in Algebra 1, and they'll go into Algebra 2 if they're currently in Geometry. We have different PE courses at the high school, which a lot of our students really enjoy. It gives them a little bit more opportunity to take, to get involved in different kinds of activities. So we have team sports and individual sports. We have self-defense judo, strength and conditioning, where students are in the weight room. We have Tai Chi, Kung Fu, yoga, and even dance. So it's important to know that some of these PE electives, I'm going to call them electives just because there are choices here. PE is required to graduate, but we have several choices that a student could choose to take. Some of our courses like yoga are very popular, but we only have one PE teacher that's actually a certified yoga instructor. So we are not usually able to get everybody who requests yoga to take it, to get into that class. The same is true for Tai Chi. These are very specialized PE classes that not just, any one of our PE teachers can teach. So Ms. Schmidt will be asking students to come up with 3 choices for PE. When that question comes up in the scheduling meeting, we're going to ask students for their first, second, and third choice, understanding that a student may, not get their first choice, and that's why we want to have a second choice and a third choice. Seniors that are, let's say, requesting yoga will have priority over ninth graders because it's a senior's last opportunity to take the course, and we want every student to be able to at least take one of these courses once if that's what they'd like to do. But that's not to say that a ninth grader won't be able to get it either. It's still a possibility. We have a dance class. We actually have 2 dance classes. One that is an everyday full year course. That's 1 full credit that will actually satisfy the art music requirement that's required for graduation. So that we're counting as an art music class. But we also have a Dance 1 course that can be used to satisfy the PE requirement. That Dance 1 class is on alternate days only, just like all of our other PE classes. They're every other day only. So if a student wants to get involved with dance and they'd like that to count as their PE requirement for ninth grade, then they can do that. But if they're looking to take Dance 1 to satisfy their art music requirement for graduation purposes, then that's the everyday dance. So it can't be used to satisfy both. It can be only used to satisfy one of the two, or it doesn't need to be taken at all if that's not something that your child is interested in. We have science next. So earth science, living environment, and chemistry are really the three choices. They are typically taken in that order that you see there. So depending upon what science class your child is taking this year, they would take the next one after that. So if they're in science 8, then earth science would be taken in ninth grade. If they're currently in earth science, they would take living environment in ninth grade. And if they're currently in living environment, they would take chemistry in ninth grade. Social studies, much like English, as I described, only global history 1 is the only social studies class and is a requirement. So all of our students will take English 1. They will all take global 1. That's not a decision that you need to make when it comes to the scheduling appointment. That will automatically be in there. You can see all of our languages that we offer. Now, unfortunately, we're not always able to offer all of our level 1 languages every year. But we do go through the scheduling process to find out what our students are interested in before we make the decision about what level 1 course we will be giving. Most of our students coming into ninth grade are going into level 2 of whatever language they're in currently. So if they're in Spanish currently, they're going to Spanish 2. If they are in French currently, they will go into French 2, so on and so forth. So you can see that some of our students do choose, let's say they are in Spanish this year and they're going into Spanish 2 as a ninth grader, they could choose to take an additional language, like Latin 1, for instance, as an elective credit, during the ninth grade. So they'd be taking 2 languages. So that's why we have other level 1 languages. It's not just for students that are starting language for the first time ever, but maybe for a student that's looking to take a second world language as a ninth grader. We have under our art music requirement, you can see art music classes. These are the classes that most of our students are taking: studio art, media arts, orchestra, band, or chorus. We do, in the box below, you can see that there are some additional courses that can be used to satisfy that art music requirement. One of which is let's see here, I just want to make sure you can see it, is Intro to Engineering and Design. So many of our students do wind up satisfying their art music requirement by taking IED. We do have a new course for next year, and I need to update this sheet. It's called Design and Drawing for Production. It's really essentially very similar to IED, but it is not associated with for college credit. So IED is a part of Project Lead the Way. It's the first of several sort of intro to engineering courses that we offer at the high school. So if a student is really interested in engineering and in taking courses like that, they may choose to take IED. But it is associated with a college for a college credit. So it is it's a more demanding class. So we created Design and Drawing for Production this year as an alternative to IED, which is basically an IED minus the college credit. So for a student that would like to take the course but aren't really sure they want to continue with any kind of sequence, they may choose to take Design and Drawing for Production. Not as rigorous of a course, more hands-on, less engineering focused, and more shop focused. So for students that are interested in that class, which is not listed here in this box at the bottom, can also be used to satisfy that art music requirement for graduation. All ninth graders are required to take lunch. That is something that was put in place a couple of years ago. We really want students to have the opportunity to take a break during the day. That was met with a little bit of resistance when we implemented that requirement a couple of years ago. There are some students that prefer not to have lunch, or really would like that extra period to take an additional elective. And we completely understand, but at the same time, we really want this transition from 8th grade to 9th grade to be smooth. And we really believe that a student taking 8 courses out of a 9-period day is really still involved in a lot, is still having the opportunity to take electives and have that period, whether they choose to eat lunch or go to the library or study or get work done, they can use that period how they'd like to, but that is a requirement. It does fill up one of those 9 periods during the day. Then we go to the right here under electives, and you can see, I'm not going to go over all of them, but you can see these are the electives that are available to 9th graders. So typically, if a student is taking, if they are taking a class that satisfies the art music requirement, and they are also taking lunch, clearly, that leaves them, and they are taking a language, that leaves them with additional period to take an elective. So some of these electives that you can see here are half-year electives, so they would be able to take 2. We listed when those courses are typically given, like are they typically given in the fall for half year or in the spring for half year? If it's not listed fall or spring, it may be because it's a full year elective, or it may be because we haven't determined what semester it needs to be in. And sometimes we don't make those decisions until after we see how many sections we need and where they need to go and who will be teaching them. So you'll be able to kind of check this out. We have a couple of new, I mean, all of these are new for your children, but if you have any older kids that have already gone through the high school, there are a couple of courses here that are new. They're new for the upperclassmen and that, you know, our students that are going to grades 10 through 12 next year as well. One is sports journalism, and the other is dramatic arts. So, and then I mentioned already design and drawing for production. Those 3 courses are new to the catalog for next year, and we hope to be able to enroll students in them. All right, let me put somebody else here in the waiting room. All right, so again, this sheet will be shared with you. Again, I will share it out as soon as I can get it posted on the website. We'll share it with you. So you'll have a chance to look at this, and also on our website, the course selection sheets, the course catalogs. You're going to be getting those links along with the link for the course information fair on Thursday night. Okay. So we always like to, it sounds like a lot of pressure. I feel like some students feel like they're making a big commitment and, you know, or feeling a lot of pressure in choosing their courses for the high school. So while we believe that it's a good idea to kind of lay out a tentative 4-year plan, that doesn't mean you have to think about electives for every single year. But if a student is kind of leaning one way or another, let's say they are interested in business electives, you can kind of look ahead at what other business courses are available after a student takes business courses in the 9th grade. And so we do like to have a tentative layout, of course, that'll be taken throughout high school. But it's okay if that plan changes. We actually expect that plan to change. I feel like it's actually kind of rare that a student going into that's currently in the 8th grade knows exactly what they want to do and already has it mapped out. It happens every once in a while, but there's no expectation for that. And I feel like if that's what happens, it does. But if it changes, then that's totally okay too. So what we do ask is that students and families do really think about you know, the choices for the 9th grade seriously in a way that you make a really good informed choice. Once we are done finding out what students are interested in and we create the master schedule, we do have a period of time where we say, you know, a student needs to commit to taking those courses, at least for the first couple of weeks of the 9th grade. A lot of time and energy goes into trying to satisfy the course selections of 1,200 students. You think about that, each of those 1,200 students has a different combination of courses that they're interested in taking. And it is, you know, there are thousands and thousands of different iterations of the schedule that go into place to be able to get the highest number of requests satisfied. So we will have a very flexible time here in these next month and a half, 2 months. If a student meets with Ms. Schmidt in 2 weeks from now, and then 1 week or 2 weeks later says, you know what, actually, I don't want to take this class. I'd like to take this other course instead. No problem. We will make those changes. Really, it's by the end of June, by the beginning of June, actually. Hopefully by the end of May, we actually have a master schedule created. And at that point, we'll know which courses were we not able to get certain students. We usually are able to satisfy about 92, 93% of all students' requests, but that does leave some students with getting 8 of their requests out of the 9 requests that they had, or 7 out of the 8 requests they had. And so counselors at that point would meet with the student and say, you know what, sports journalism, unfortunately, didn't fit into your schedule based on the other courses that you chose. What's another choice that you may want to consider? And so those conversations may happen toward the end of May. But really by the second week or so of June, we'll be asking students and families to commit to the courses that we were able to get them. So you'll wind up getting an email from, and the email from me, you will basically say, this is the list of courses that your child has been scheduled for next year. Now, at that point in time, by the way, we're not going to be able to tell you what period those courses are or who the teacher is going to be, but we can say, listing in alphabetical order, let's say, these are the courses that your child has been scheduled for. Please let us know if this is correct or incorrect. And if there's any error with that, or there's some kind of change, we can try to make it at that point. But once we really roll in past that time, we sort of lock those requests in. And we'd say, even for students who say over the summer, change their mind about something, we're going to say, I know we recognize that people are going to change their minds, and that happens. But before you change that course electives, you will have to sit through the first week or 2 of that class to really see what it's about before you kind of make that decision. Sometimes students change their mind just based on what they're hearing from their friends and not from their direct experience. So, that's just something to think about, and we'll communicate about that throughout the rest of this year. Okay, so this is a process, and we will do our best to accommodate. All right, so some of our FAQs. Will my child have to take lunch? Yes, your child will have to take lunch. Are there an exception? Is there an exception ever to that? There may be. So if we have a student that has 2 or more required services based on their IEP or ENL status, and that prevents them from being able to take even a single elective, that student may be granted that period to be able to take a single elective. So that is a possibility. So if your child is in that, falls into that category, then maybe that's a conversation we'll have. But otherwise, all students will be required to take lunch. When will I know who my high school counselor is? So we will in the month of May, likely in the month of May. I will reach out to you then, and that's when we've done it over the past 2 years. So the positive of that is that you will have an opportunity to meet with your child's high school counselor via Zoom in a group, but you will have the opportunity to kind of get that intro from your child's counselor. Now, Ms. Schmidt will still be the person through the remainder of this year when it comes to scheduling and picking courses for next year. But having that opportunity to kind of see your high school counselor's face in the month of May, I think is really nice. It gives our current 8th graders an opportunity when they come in as 9th graders and they meet their counselor. It won't be the first time that they're meeting them, and we feel like that helps with the transition. When will I receive my schedule? So the master schedule, like I said, is typically done by the beginning of June, tentatively done. We do continue to work on it and move things around. Sometimes we have to move what periods courses are going to be. or who's going to be teaching the course. We do that over the summer. So really the schedule with period and teacher name on it will not be released until the week before the first day of school. Now that will provide you an opportunity with a few days, between then and the first day of school to see if for some reason, if there is an error on the schedule, you'll have an opportunity to reach out to your child's high school counselor and we will fix those. But again, at that point, if a student says they changed their mind on their elective, at that point, we're kind of in a lock to not make those changes until after the first week or two of school and the students had an opportunity to actually see what that elective class is all about. There is an opportunity at that point if a student made their changed their mind about a level change, but there's really, actually, I take that back. There really isn't any level options that any ninth grader is having as far as choosing to take AP or not AP. So I take that back. So it kind of follows up with the next question. When can we begin to take AP courses? 10th grade. 10th grade is the first time that students can take an AP course at the high school. We have many to offer. Our students often do take at least one or two. The majority of our students will have taken at least one AP course by the time they graduate, but every student is different. And I really don't like to make blanket statements as far as how many should a student take versus not take. That's really a very individual decision that your counselor will help you make together with you as a family. How long do I have to take foreign language? So for a Regents diploma or a local diploma, only 1 credit of a world language is required. And that 1 credit for most of our students is earned by the end of the 8th grade. So most of our students in the 8th grade were also taking that same language in the 7th grade. That 7th grade and 8th grade language, those 2 courses combined together count for 1 high school credit. So that is the minimum required for the local or the Regents diploma. For the advanced Regents diploma, students need to take 3 credits of a world language. There is an alternate path beyond language, and I will say that students that we may have students that have an IEP that may be exempt from a world language. Those students are then not required to take it. That's a very individual basis. So again, for the majority of our students, they must take language for 3 years if they are going to earn that advanced Regents diploma. There is an alternate path, like I said, for the students who only take 1 language credit. They may take additional credits in art or business or music, 5-unit sequence. And if at any point in time that comes up as a question, know that your counselor will be able to help guide you down that path. When is high school orientation? So we have high school orientation is typically, within that week before school. So I don't have the date in front of me at the moment, but you'll get plenty of advance notice about that. So you can help kind of plan your summer. Who knows what orientation will look like? Hopefully we will be in a better place in August and we will be in person and everything is going to be great. That's our plan. That's my plan. The orientation will be an opportunity for your children to come in before high school begins to meet their counselor, to meet in small groups, to get a tour of the building, to hear from upperclassmen, to be able to see where their locker is, where their classes are going to be. So while it's not a requirement, I certainly encourage students that are able to attend the orientation to do so. I feel like it helps ease any anxieties that students might have about navigating the building that they're just not as familiar with. When do we take SAT or ACT tests? So typically those are taken in junior year. You may have heard a lot about, college admissions requirements lately. It's been in the news. I've sent things out about it as well. It's been in newsletters. There are many colleges over these past couple of years that are now test optional, where in the past they used to require the SAT or ACT. Both the SAT and ACT are college entrance exams, so they're standardized exams that supplement a student's high school transcript. The high school transcript has all the courses they've taken, the grades that they've earned, and then these standardized exams help many colleges determine, whether or not they want to admit students. So now many colleges are test optional because of COVID. There's so many test center cancellations. It's been much more difficult for students to take. Your kids are in 8th grade, so there we have a few years ahead of us. So I have a feeling, a real optimistic feeling that we will be in a better place. But I also do believe there will continue to be colleges that, because of this experience in COVID, realize that they're able to still admit a competitive incoming freshman class, even without standardized test scores. But with that being said, we'll still certainly have many that do require them. And again, most of our students will take those exams for the first time in junior year, either early in junior year or late in junior year, depending on the courses they're taking, how well they're doing. And keep in mind that PSATs, which is sort of like the pre-SAT, most of our 10th graders will take that. And that's a score that students can earn and kind of get in a sense of how they would have done if they had taken SAT. And we'll sort of will give themselves a benchmark of where they're at and whether or not they're ready to take the SAT earlier on in junior year, or if perhaps they require a little bit more preparation, by studying or taking courses or whatever they need to do. So the PSAT can be then taken again in junior year, and then again, then the SAT and ACTs are typically in the winter or spring. Do clubs begin before or after school? So the clubs at the high school are mostly before school, which is kind of nice. The high school does not begin until 8:59 in the morning, so it's a much later start. Our high school students are certainly happy about that, but their club participation, since their day does not end until 3:30, and there's still athletics after school, our clubs at the high school happen before school, as do some of the extra help or AIS classes that are given as well. So that was a lot of information. And I don't expect that everybody tonight is going to walk away feeling like they know everything that they need to know, because I went over some things really quickly. And I really want to just assure you that this is just the preview tonight. This is step one of many steps. Thursday's evening presentation or the club fair with the videos and all the course information guides. There's so much that's going to happen over these next few weeks that you're really going to have an opportunity to digest some of what I've talked about. Now, when you see it in the course catalog or when you hear Ms. Schmidt talk about it, it will be something that you're not hearing for the first time. And we will help you navigate that through the process and for your kids for sure. So with that being said, I would love to be able to answer any questions that you have. So I see there are some questions. Let me see. There are some questions here that I am just reading right now. So it looks like there were some parents who were trying to get in, but apparently there was a max capacity of 100. All right, that is unfortunate. I am recording, so I will share that out. Hopefully that will solve the problem. I apologize for that in advance. That is a Zoom limitation here, apparently with my account. So for those of you that shared that with me, thank you for letting me know. Unfortunately, I would not have been able to do anything about that during this presentation anyway. So I'm sorry, I'm just reading that now, but if you can let your friends know that I will share the recording of tonight's session, I will do that. And if for any reason that isn't working, I will do it again. We will, host another one if that's what we need to do. I certainly want everybody to feel like they're getting the information in preparation for scheduling. All right, another question. Does Algebra 1 in the 7th grade count for high school credits and the Regents requirement? Yes. So, well, actually, I take that back. There's a two-part answer to that. Algebra 1 can be taken in the 7th grade for our double accelerated students, and the Regents exam for Algebra 1 can be taken in the 7th grade to satisfy one of the Regents exam requirements in math. But a student cannot earn credits. They cannot earn high school credits prior to the 8th grade. So that means that that student, having taken Algebra 1 in 7th grade, will have their Regents exam score, or that exemption, if they were exempt from the Algebra 1 Regents due to COVID, that would be listed on their high school transcript. But that course, Algebra 1, will not be listed on there for high school credit. It doesn't matter, just so you know, it doesn't matter, because they will certainly be taking many more than the required number of credits for math. And that Algebra Regents, they'll see that the student did take it. They just won't see that, that credit for Algebra 1. The email about Thursday night, you will be getting.
Can I ask a follow-up question to my question? So what about that mastery in math? If in the 7th grade, the child got above a 90 on their Regents, does it count in that average of mastery, even though it doesn't count as a high school credit?
Correct, right. So it's a two-part, for graduation requirements, it's two-part, right? It is credits, high school credits, and the number of credits that a student needs to earn in the different subject areas. And there's also a separate Regents exam requirement. So it satisfies the Regents exam requirement and can be used in the calculation for mastery or honors, but it cannot, but for the 3 required math credits, it can't count as one of those 3 required math credits. But geometry, algebra 2, pre-calc, AP Calc, multivariable, all of that will wind up being well above and beyond those 3 required credits. All right, you're welcome. So the email about Thursday, you will be getting that from our high school principal. So he will be sending that out on Thursday with the link. So basically, it's it used to start at 7 o'clock. It was in Sam Springer Gym. This year, it's really a website that we created that that has links to the video and the course description. So likelihood is he'll send that out earlier in the day, and you can access it before 7 p.m. But it won't be probably sent until the end of the school day on Thursday. Let's see. And for people who are just joining now, I did just hear that there was a limit to the number of participants that could be in the meeting at 100. And some of you are just jumping into the very end of the meeting. I apologize for that. That is a Zoom setting that I think is beyond my control, but I may be able to use a district account to increase that number. I am recording tonight's presentation, so for those of you that just jumped in now, I will share that out tomorrow. All right, how will students get to school for clubs? Could they take the middle school bus? There is an early bus, and there's certainly early drop-off. So they will be able to participate by taking an early bus. You'll get plenty of information about transportation as we get closer to that time. Is there lunch in all quarters? Yes, there is. Every lunch is for our 9th graders is every day for the full year, full 41-minute period. Thursday's evening presentation is actually, it's not even a Zoom meeting. It's a website that's already been recorded. So there is an intro from the high school principal and from the assistant principal and from me in a recording that we already did. And there are videos for most of our courses that the teachers created. And so you'll be able to browse that at your own pace. That won't be a Zoom presentation. There will certainly not be any limit on the number of people that can attend. You can choose to watch it the following day if you're not available that night. It's something that we're going to keep open for you once we share that email out on Thursday. So there's no Zoom link for it, in other words. Okay, so you'll wind up getting the email from Mr. Cohen, and that will have the link for the course information night on Thursday. All right. All right. Is there any other questions? I think I've answered all the questions in the chat. So feel free to put another question in there if you have it now. All right. Is there any chance to accelerate? Yes, so there is potentially still a chance. So in science, students can double up in science later on in high school. So even if a student is taking science 8 in 8th grade right now, they would take earth science in 9th grade, living environment in 10th, chemistry in 11th, and then senior year, they could take 2 sciences. They could take physics and another AP science, or, we have several classes for that. In math, we do have a couple options. They are listed on that chart. And I will share this evening's presentation, the slides of today's presentation. I will share that out with you tomorrow. So you'll be able to look at those a little bit closer. So in math and science, there are ways to accelerate if a child is not already accelerated. But all of our acceleration options are in Jericho. There used to be courses that were taken at outside schools where students would accelerate in the summer. Those are no longer accepted. This is our 2nd year doing that. So all acceleration that happens in Jericho needs to take place in Jericho. Let's see here. The latest buses for high school students, I believe, are 6:30, I believe. Sports typically start around 3:45. The high school is done at 3:30. It gives about 15 minutes to get down and ready for practice. It is possible to take, we have some family consumer science classes, gourmet foods and international foods. Each of those is a half-year course, so plenty of students choose to take both of them, one in the fall, one in the spring. For students who want to take another world language, Chinese 1 is probably not the equivalent of what Chinese 1 was at the 6th grade. It's probably beyond that. Earlier on in the presentation, I talked about grades, 7th grade Chinese and 8th grade Chinese counts as Chinese 1 for high school credit. So the level 1 languages at the high school are for credit in that 1 year. So I'm guessing that Chinese 1 in the 6th grade is at a lower level. But Dr. Chan, our world language curriculum associate, can certainly answer any specific questions that you have about world language. Let's see. And yes, you can switch from Spanish to Chinese, but typically I recommend that students complete the sequence in the language that they're in. They'll still wind up completing that sequence by the end of 10th grade, which will give them the option to either continue on at a level 4 or above in that language, or they can begin a second world language at that time, or for students who want to double. World language can be taken for an elective credit if it's not. So let's say for an advanced Regents diploma, 3 credits are required. So then I would not count that as an elective. It would be a part of the required courses that you need for that advanced Regents diploma. But if a student is taking, let's say in 10th grade, they are taking, or 9th grade, they're taking Spanish 2, and they're also taking Latin 1, then Latin 1 would count as that elective credit. But again, electives, kids are going to have plenty of electives. You don't really have to worry about them satisfying a certain number of electives. Your child's counselor will help make sure that each year. They're taking as many courses as they need. So for those of you that are, I think I'm going to stay on this Zoom for a little bit longer, but because I realize there are some people that are leaving now, and then other people that are joining in for the first time because of the limit. So for those of you that were here for the whole presentation, thank you for coming. I appreciate you taking the time, and know again that I am here to help work with your child's counselor and that transition from 8th into 9th grade. So thank you and have a great night. For anybody who wants to stay for any additional questions, I will stay on for a little bit. And for those of you that are just joining right now, I am recording tonight's presentation. And if you were just jumping in now, I will share that out with you tomorrow. Will electives count in the GPA? Yes, any on all courses aside from PE. So PE is really, off the top of my head, is the only class that does not get factored into a student's GPA. If it's taken for high school credit and it's not PE, it's counting in the GPA. So that's for an elective. It's for a English class as much as it is for a gourmet foods class. They both count in the GPA. Students' transcripts that we send to colleges list the weighted GPA and the unweighted GPA. So all that really means is our Regents and above level courses. So Regents, AP, and college level courses get a 0.3 additive to the GPA. So let's just say for an even number, if a student had a 3.0 GPA unweighted, that means that that's what, let's say that's basically an average of a B that they earn throughout high school. The student's weighted GPA, if all of those courses they took were Regents or above level classes, would be a 3.3. So it's a 0.3 additive onto those. So some of our electives are not Regents level or above. So it's really our electives sometimes that don't get that extra 0.3 additive, unless that elective also happens to be for college credit. But both of those GPAs are listed on the high school transcript for colleges to see when the time comes. Okay, let me see here if there's any other questions. Right, I think that is it. Oh yes, if you are participating in sports, would you still need to take PE? The answer is yes. So that PE requirement for graduation purposes is for a physical education course. And so that must be taken every semester throughout high school. We recognize that we have 3 seasoned athletes that are in top shape, but they're not earning credits for the sports that they're involved in after school. Can math accelerate? Let's see, further accelerate to math 2. So if I'm getting this question right, if a student is in algebra 1 as an 8th grader, do they have an opportunity to double accelerate? We do have that class called pre-calculus AB and pre-calc BC. Basically, that has students that were single accelerated that wanted to double accelerate. They can, in the year that they are eligible to take algebra 2, they could potentially take that pre-calc BC class in addition to their algebra 2 class, so that in that 1 year they would be earning credit for algebra 2 and pre-calculus, which would put them right back on track for double acceleration, being able to take AP Calc BC the following year, instead of needing that whole additional year to take pre-calculus. So yes. Can algebra 1 in 8th grade go into algebra 2 in 9th grade? So no, students are, course sequence in math is algebra 1 to geometry, and then algebra 2. So if we have a student, let's say, that comes from another district and they take it in a different order, then potentially if they took geometry and algebra 1 already, they could go into algebra 2. But otherwise students go from algebra 1 to geometry. Let's see, we have somebody whose child is double accelerated. Does the 8th grade GPA count in the high school? Yes, so for any high school credits that are earned in the 8th grade, those could be algebra 1, it could be earth science or living environment. It will be a world language for students that are taking world language that took it in 7th and 8th grade. Those 3 credits are usually the 3 up to 3 high school credits that a student could earn. Those are listed on a student's transcript and do count in the high school GPA. Let's see. So we have a question here. Can a student take an AP class elsewhere and then take the AP exam in 9th grade? The answer is no for that. A student is only taking AP in Jericho if they take the AP course in Jericho. So we have somebody whose daughter's taking French in middle school. Can she select another language in high school? Yes, she may. But she will start at level 1 in another language. So usually every year we've got Spanish 1 for sure. We don't always have Italian 1 or French 1. I think we usually have Chinese 1. But it really depends on how many students that we have request those courses. Sometimes we only have like 3 or 4 students that request a level 1 in a language, and that's just not enough for us to be able to run that class. So basically the way that it works is that we want to find out from students what they want, and then we wind up sitting down together as an administration team and see how many requests for each of the courses we have. And then we see whether or not it's sufficient numbers to be able to run the course. We usually are able to run everything, and it's just a matter of how many sections we're going to run. But if we only have, let's say 12 or fewer requests for a course, it's tough to justify running that class. So sometimes there are some courses that we ask students to tell us if they want, and then we find out that we just don't have enough students to run that class. But we may potentially then run it the next year. Every year we start with a blank slate. So we really are interested on a yearly basis in finding out what it is exactly our students want. And then we try our best to have students get those courses. All right, again, and I hate to be repeating myself, but if there was anybody that jumped on late because of the limit on the number of participants, I apologize for that. I am recording, so as long as this recording works the way I think it should, I will be sharing the recording out. You'll be able to see that. If for some reason there is an issue with that, I will make sure that we have another time to get together and go over all of this. We have a student that may want to consider not taking a language in 9th grade. Only 1 credit of a world language is required. So if they're coming into the high school having earned their 1 credit, that's all they need to do. But that they will not be eligible for an advanced Regents diploma unless they have 3 credits. There's another option for that too, with earning 5 credits in art or business, but generally speaking, my general advice, unless a student has a disability that really prevents them from being successful in world language, my recommendation is that a student takes 3 credits of a language. Colleges are, usually that's what they want to see. So we want to try to prepare for success. Students can typically take a couple, 2 periods worth of electives at the high school in the 9th grade. So if language is one of them, Then there is another period there. Remember, there's a period for lunch. Okay. Right, we have a more manageable number now. So if somebody wants to jump in, if you have a good question for me, you can jump in and just ask it if you don't want to type in the chat. Okay, thank you so much, everybody, for joining me tonight. Ms. Schmidt sends her best. She will be seeing your kids soon in weeks ahead. We look forward to working with you, and we will be seeing each other in the future. Have a great night, everyone.